going to, like how you just said, go in the bank and ask for your money. A
Mhm.
child will come up to you and literally be like, I want candy.
Mhm.
And you bought me that, so it's mine. And it's
Mhm.
like, no, it's not yours. I bought it. No, you said it's for me. And I have kids and I always like tell them manners and whatever, but it's like we have to and we always hear this, unlearn everything we learned just to learn again. And it's amazing that like every day I'm trying to unlearn everything I've learned to learn again.
Mhm.
And it's so hard.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
I'm with you.
Mhm.
No, I'm over here. I put my headphones so that and it's crazy, right? So I'm gonna say how crazy this is. So I put my headphones so that way y'all are not too loud to wake up my son. But yeah, I'm talking. So I'm gonna wake him up regardless. He just needs to get up.
Oh man. Yeah. 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 Well, welcome everyone. It's 7 o'clock.
Back, Fernando.
We're 7 o'clock. Welcome everyone to another Mindset Saturday. We're gonna get it off and get it jumping like we always do. Thank you as always for showing up. It's an honor and pleasure to be with you, to come together to reason as we always do, to learn, to grow, to apply, improve. That's what all this is for. To learn, to grow, to unlearn, which is part of growth, to learn, to unlearn, to grow, to apply, and to prove. To prove what is that good and acceptable will. To prove, do we know what we're talking about? Are we right? Are we on the right path? We've all hoped long enough. We've all wished long enough. We've already mastered those skills. We want to start knowing now. We want to start having some certainty with our life, in our life, and knowing who we really are and what we really are and what our power and rights are, so to speak, constitutionally. Right? So welcome. All right, we're going to get started. Here we go. So you already know, it goes without saying, you already know it's me. What does this word mean? What do people think this word means? What have people told you it means? And since you know I wrote it up here, it doesn't mean what you think it means. So then I'm sure we all know what we think it means. Who wants to take a guess on what it really means?
So it doesn't mean enjoyment,
Say it again.
and it does not mean enjoyment. Good morning, by the way.
Good morning. No.
In the chat, Stellar Styles put reflection moments.
Okay. Wonderful. No.
Um,
We need at least 3 guesses for me to move on. So just like Leslie talked about earlier, like Revite, we participate up in here.
one,
Yes.
my life.
I don't even know what that means, but that confused me. That confused me. And you didn't went way too deep, too early. It's
Well, okay, so what about enlightenment? Like
like,
your like fun enlightenment. Like when you're having fun, you have that moment of enlightenment. Like you enjoy that moment and like you're enlightened for that moment. It's just that moment.
mhm.
In the chat, going back to the core of your being.
Man, we didn't got deep today.
Yeah. Let me see.
We didn't, and it's early.
It's 7:04 out
Started-
here.
People must
You
have the
started.
candles out early, the incense burning early. People must
No,
have,
We're in
you
California.
haven't
It's
eaten.
it's early out here.
You know, you started. You said it's not what you think it is. So
That's
now
right.
we thinking out the box.
That's right. And it's literally not what you think it is. This is exactly what it means.
Okay.
The etymological definition, the denotation, the earliest meaning of the word fun meant foolish or silly.
Mm.
This is a mid-century 1500, mid-1500s word. That's why when it says to make fun of something, make fun of someone, in the 1600s, this word started to mean cheat or trick.
Mm.
So when you were making fun of someone, you were cheating them or you were tricking them. When you were making fun of someone, you were calling them foolish or silly. Almost in the same spirit as nice. Right? Which we know to mean basically stupid or ignorant. That's what that word means. It means without knowledge, missing knowledge. It's a compound word. There's two different words in there. But that's what that word means.
In the chat, I'm feeling foolish this morning. Not a compliment. You're right, Sparkle Bailey. And definitely with that meaning, that is not my life.
It turned into, and the word enjoyment now did not come until the 1800s. It did not turn into the connotative way we use it now until the 1800s. Originally, it meant foolish or silly, and then it turned into and kind of added along cheating or tricking someone. That's essentially, that's what the word originally denotatively meant. And it still means, the word still means this. People connotatively use it for enjoyment now, but that's not actually what the word means. So just because people use it differently doesn't mean that the actual definition of the word has changed. It has not. This is actually what it means. We're using it now connotatively as enjoyment, but the word actually meant that.
So Amanda put in the chat, all week I was saying I'm not playing nice just to be the named nice.
Right?
The camera.
Because nice means stupid or ignorant. It means you're lacking knowledge. You don't know something. That's what that word means still. Okay.
I don't like English. It has all these like tricky stuff. Spanish is not like.
Here's another one.
Try backwards in Spanish. Hold on.
What'd you
Try
say?
it backwards in Spanish. Hold on.
So that's that one. Okay, this one. Who's ever heard of
Pinocchio.
who's ever heard of
Lying nose.
Lion nose? All right.
Lying nose.
There you go. Way out there. Way out there. Okay. So what is this allegory? What is this supposed to be about? The story of Pinocchio. What is that allegory? What is that supposed to be about?
Basically, when you lie, you're telling yourself in some kind of way. It's made apparent that you're lying.
Okay.
So don't lie.
Wasn't it
Okay.
about a little wooden boy who wasn't true because he kept until he wanted to become a real boy, but until he realized that he holds real love, he became a real boy.
Pretty close. Getting closer. Getting closer.
It's about manifestation.
Manifestation. Oh,
No.
he said,
Like it's about yourself, like how to become what you want.
no, he became a puppet.
No.
Don't give the face.
No, this is wonderful. That's why we have it up here.
I think that was a good point. He's a puppet
Mhm.
until he speaks his truth, and then he becomes a real boy.
What is his truth?
Oh, I didn't get that far yet.
Okay.
You know how I said like I was chasing shiny. I'm a shiny chaser. That's what they call it, right? He was chasing Shiny, and he was a puppet because he kept doing everything that he was He didn't do everything he was told to do, but he kept chasing something he thought he wanted when he had everything at home.
Okay.
Everything was inside of him and at home. His father, his love was there. His love was with his dad, but he had it already. Everything he needed, he already had to become a real boy, to become a real person. But he kept chasing everything else that was around him because he thought it was better than what he already had. And his conscience kept telling him, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say Pinocchio. I was piggybacking off of you. Pinocchio was nice.
Hello everyone. This is Gerardo. What I got from it, what I got from Pinocchio was that the truth always comes to light in some sort of way. And you block from lying to people, you're lying to yourself, and eventually comes out, and you block your own blessings when you do that.
All right.
He never listened to his conscience.
Say that again.
He never listened to his conscience.
Okay. Okay.
The further you get away from that which created you, the further you get away from yourself.
Okay. All right. What does this word mean?
Gina?
I haven't seen this. in
It
a-
means
such a-
I.
Say
It means
again?
I,
Correct.
Okio. Yeah, I.
That's correct. I. What is this word short for?
You know,
Say it again.
I was just, I'm on my phone, so I don't know if I'm seeing it correctly. So you underlined the Pinot,
Yes. No, just the I-N, the P-I-N.
just the I-N. Okay.
Occhio is the Italian word for eye. Ocular. Eye. Correct. What is this word short for? I don't expect you to know, but I want you to think. So
I'm gonna get. Can I throw a stab in the dark here?
yes,
Hi, Neil.
correct.
Oh, that's money. That's money right there.
That is money.
This entire allegory was about opening your third eye. It's about
Boy.
enlightenment.
Yo,
It's about,
Yo,
it is about you are not a real boy. You are not a real person until you can open up your highest level of consciousness. You're always a puppet. Someone is always pulling your strings. First, it was his father, right? The puppet master, Geppetto. Then it was people going along the way when he went on his journey. It was the fox trying to trick him with the cards and things like that. It was him going to the circus, him smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol. It was his journey of blindness, essentially. He didn't know who he was or what he was. So he was a puppet. He wasn't a real boy. He wasn't a real living. He wasn't a real living. He was alive, but he wasn't a real living thing because his third eye, his highest level of consciousness was not awakened. And so his journey from becoming a puppet to a real boy is essentially his ascension into higher levels, all the way up into the highest level of consciousness. That's what this allegory is trying to tell you. That is what Pinocchio actually is. It's essentially saying, open up your Pinocchio, open up your third eye by rising to the highest level of consciousness, by raising your level of consciousness up to the highest part so that you can be a true living being, not just alive, but a living being where you know, to all of your different points, where you now know who you are. You now know that you are. You now realize that you are the power, that you are what you have been looking for. You are that. But in your ignorance, without raising or rising to that level of consciousness, you are a puppet. You are always being pulled on by those who have higher levels of consciousness than you. We understand that if we were to apply it to intelligence, oh, this person's smarter than you or smarter than something, so maybe they got a better grade. or maybe they can build something you can't build. It's all based on levels of consciousness.
This is why I said manifestation.
That's not the same thing. I understand what you're saying, but that's not what this is talking about. But essentially, it allows you, it is a ultimately, yes, you do, but that's not
Yeah.
really what it's talking about.
I think the ones you guys said, the Pinot, that clicked to what the rest of the information was, but yeah.
So that's essentially what this is. That's essentially what this is. That is what the allegory is about. It's about opening up your third eye, your highest level of consciousness, so that you can turn into a real functioning, living human being that is self-governed, self-guided, with self-discipline, self-respect, self-awareness. You are not being puppeted. You're not a puppet. You're a real boy. You're a real girl. You're a real human, which includes male and female. The word man is short for mankind, humanity. It means male and female. Does not mean it's been taken as a gender. It's not. It means both male and female. So that's what this is about. A lot of stuff going on and a lot of things we watch and people don't, they don't even see it. They don't know it, right? So, okay. Last thing. Kind of along this same line. Who knows? I'm just going to pick one. Who knows the importance? How my drawing is. I'm going to try it out. But yeah, this is real terrible. I'm not even going to try to. I'm trying to draw an ear. It's an ear. You know how to draw an ear?
Yeah, that's horrible. But it's okay. Everyone can.
Okay, everybody understands this is an ear. Get over it. Don't judge me.
In the chat,
Don't judge.
anyone else is super confused.
It's an ear. All right, it's an ear. So your ear, right? Your ear is simply let me back up a little bit. Say it a little differently. Early Sumerians, Egyptians did tattooing. They wore jewelry. They wore what we would call now jewelry, earrings, things like that. If you know anything about the ear, your ear is essentially, especially if you do, what's the word I'm looking for? Acupuncture, especially Eastern or older acupuncture from different regions of the world. Your ear is essentially an inverted birth canal. So you know how a baby faces down, generally faces down, arms folded, things like that. That's essentially your ear is shaped in that same way. The canal that holds that is shaped in the same way. Why is that important? Well, when you do acupuncture, especially old Eastern Chinese and old acupuncture, they understood that every part of your ear, every single part of it, correlates to an organ in your body. Your ear, every different part of your ear correlates to a different organ in your body. In old times, people, priestesses especially, wore earrings. When you pierce your ear right here, where most of us pierce it, especially the first one generally, usually piercing it right here toward the bottom. That is called basically your channel of inner light. That part of your ear. That part of your ear stimulates the pineal gland. The reason they pierced that right there was to stimulate that gland. That gland, that pineal gland, is basically stimulated because the priestesses wanted to be able to invoke or rile up, however you want to say it, their inner vision. To be able to to raise their level of understanding, almost like Pinocchio, to become conscious at a different level. They were essentially using that part of their ear to stimulate, because there's a correlation to each part of your ear to every organ of your body. And your pineal sits under your hypothalamus in the back, right under, and it points down, doesn't point up. So the light that comes through your eyes doesn't directly hit that. The light that's actually hitting your pineal gland is actually coming from your heart. Your heart has the most, it's like your inner volcano. It has the most blood pumping through it, and has, therefore, it's consuming and conducting the most energy. And energy creates light. And that light is going from here up to your pineal gland. And that is why what is being governed in the heart, as a man think, it's not talking about mentally, it's talking about your heart. According to your faith, it's talking about your heart. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. It's talking about that. Whatever's going on in your heart, what does it say? Let all your requests be made known unto God, and the peace of God will guard your heart and mind. Those are different things. And it's talking about that part of you on the inside that is actually constantly sending light to your pineal gland on the inside. There's a connection between that. So the reason people were wearing jewelry, the reason they were piercing their ear, was because they were trying, that was a way to stimulate the internal organ, their pineal gland, so that they could have their perception, their receptivity to visions or to higher levels of consciousness would be stimulated. That is why they pierced their ear right here on the bottom lobe, that part. Every part of your ear, like I said, correlates to an inner organ. And so a lot of people, if you don't know how to think, a lot of people piercing their ears everywhere are messing with their organs. They don't understand that. They don't know that. And so when you start piercing different parts of your ear, you are literally having different parts and effects on your organs, depending on where you pierced it and what you're piercing it with. That's why historically, when they pierced that part of the ear, they would always use some form of crystal or diamond. It was also reflective of light, because those things reflect light. They bring in light, they give off light. They are light bearers, light holders. They shine. And that is what the correlation was. So as you go up and people piercing all parts of their ears, period, and then not knowing what they're piercing them with, they're not understanding what they're doing to their organs. All those things, there's always an inner and an outer, right? As above, so below, as within, so without. They're all correlated. But that is why historically people wore jewelry on different parts of their body, because what they were trying to do was match the outer with the inner. And so this thing here, or this thing here, or what they wore here or here, is always about using the outer and the inner as one, to combine that experience for almost the fullness of power, or to stimulate that power that is within. It's almost like pinching yourself to stay awake, or drinking coffee to stay awake, right? You're using one thing to influence something that's already inside. You're using something on the outside to influence something that's on the inside, to stoke it up, to fire it up, to get it going, to awaken it, to enliven it, things like that. So that was the original reason people wore jewelry. That's the original reason people got tattoos. They knew what to put, where to put it, why to put it, because they were doing it esoterically. They were doing it with a different sense of awareness. They were doing it to invoke the outside, things on the outside or on the inside with things from the outside. So it wasn't for the reasons we wear it now. They weren't getting tatted for the reasons we're getting tatted now. They weren't wearing jewelry for the reasons we're wearing it now. They weren't just piercing anything, anywhere, with anything. They understood that they were using that to fire up something on the inside. And this, just one small example, is what you would call your channel of inner light. It's basically to get you to be able to see things on the inside that you wouldn't see normally. It's to fire up, to stoke up your pineal gland, and to get it to activate it artificially, so to speak, externally. Your whole life essentially is in your ear. Meaning every organ that you want to stimulate, fix, and things like that, you can do in your ear. You can hit it other places, but one whole place is here, just like that whole birth canal. That whole place looks like that. That's why. It's the same thing. That's why they say your whole life is in your ear. So that's what jewelry, piercings, tats, things like that, historically, they were done for completely different reasons than they're done today. Not saying that's good or bad, just saying it is different. And they did it with a different level of knowledge and therefore different reasons. They weren't really forms of expression the way we're doing. They were really more forms of enlightenment and understanding. They were doing it because they had it, or doing it to stimulate, to get it, so to speak, to tap into it. That's what they were doing. Wearing different types of jewelry, different ways, different places, things like that. All right. All right, good start to the day. Good start so far. Everybody awake?
Your ear looked like a cactus.
Oh man, it was so bad.
We up, Coach Lucky, we up.
I did what I could. Okay, nobody's here for my art show. Nobody's here for the art show. All right. Okay. Knowledge. What is that?
Knowing information or having possession of information.
Okay.
Experience.
Okay.
Wisdom.
That's not the same. We're going to get to that one. What is knowledge?
What you know.
That's personal knowledge, yes. But what is knowledge itself?
Stellar put awareness.
Okay.
Monique put knowing a thing.
Okay.
What was I just saying? Truth? The truth?
Okay. Okay. So knowledge is basically knowing something and its boundaries, right? Knowing and the ledge. It's about the awareness of something and its boundaries and its limits, its direction, what it is or is not, where it starts, where it stops. Like when you know how to drive. You wouldn't say that to a 9-year-old. They don't know the rules. They're not going to stay in the lane. They're just, that's knowledge. It's your awareness of something as well as what it is or isn't, the boundaries of it. It's the awareness and the ledge, where it starts, where it stops, what it is, what it isn't. Okay? What is wisdom?
I would say
Applying the
that would
knowledge?
be, yeah, applied knowledge. I was gonna say knowledge with experience, which is like the same thing with different words.
Okay?
Good
Anyone
morning.
else?
I would say understanding.
No, what is wisdom? Wisdom is not knowledge. Wisdom is not understanding. What is wisdom?
Discernment.
What do you mean by that? I know what it means, but what do you mean by it?
Right, like knowing when to and when not to do certain things, like having the discernment of when something is appropriate or what is appropriate next.
So what everybody said in pieces is correct. It is essentially the skilled application of knowledge. It's a skilled application that can come from experience and things like that. It's a skilled application of it. When to, when not to, why not, how much, how little, how often. It's the skilled application of that. Okay? What is understanding?
It'd be the ability to relate to another situation.
Okay? Who else?
I would say it's an investment. Understanding is an investment. You're investing time in a process of understanding all sides, getting to know all sides. So it's more of an investment in time to be able to come up with the answer or a solution or a concept, but it's an investment. To get to understanding, you have to be willing to invest time. It doesn't happen immediately.
Okay. Anyone else? I don't remember how many we got. I think 2 people said something, maybe even more, but need at least one more person.
I think understanding is the ability to embody different perspectives.
Okay. What do you mean?
We can both be reading a thing and you take something different from it. I take something different from it, but then when you share your perspective, I have the ability to see and understand where you're coming from. I don't know if I explained that correctly.
Okay. Okay. So basically you're using it as being able to interpret not only what you think, but what someone else thinks.
Right.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now, these words are big words in the sense of they have a lot. These are loaded words. They have a lot in them. So just because I'm putting one of the definitions, like I said earlier, everybody in pieces are correct. All these things comprise, right? They make up the word. All the things that you guys have been saying, that's absolutely correct. We're just bringing it down to a singular definition, so to speak. But this singular definition is comprised of everything that you have all said. So you're right. Essentially, knowledge plus wisdom equals understanding. You get to a point where you just know, And then you get to a point where you just know how, when, why, where, what. And then it just gets to the point where it just is. You just understand. When you go to the store and something is $5.95, you just understand you need $6. You just, it's not so active, it's not so Herculean, it's not so dramatic. It's just almost like your heart beating. It's just an automatic thing. You just get to a point where you just understand. It's not emotional, it's not personal. It's just the consequence of knowing the ledge, how something is, what it is, where it is, why it is. It's the wisdom that comes from experience, from your knowledge, from applying it and getting the wisdom, the experience from it, so that you can now have a skill that you know how and when and where to apply this knowledge of the ledge that you have. And that equals your understanding. That's why it says in the book, and in all thy getting, get understanding. Understanding. Just 2 + 2 is 4. As an adult, you've come to an understanding of that. You can just, it just makes absolute complete sense to you, and you can apply it in every circumstance, situation, country, religion, gender. It doesn't, nothing else matters. Nothing is going to change that. You just have a complete, firm knowing, awareness of what it is, what it isn't. You have the ability to apply it skillfully, wisely, and it's come to the point where it's just sunk in. Like water that made the tree grow, and the tree just is. It's now one with it. It's when that knowledge and wisdom you become one with it. It's just an understanding. It's a peace, it's a calm. It's just, I know that I know that I know that I know that I know. Just an understanding of something. It's not exciting, it's not revelatory, it's just an understanding. You just understand. When we were talking before the class, and we're talking about why we come here on Saturdays essentially, which is to learn and unlearn and apply, improve. That's the whole point, is to be able to come to an understanding of life, of ourselves, of who we are, what we are, of all the different, to come to an understanding in such a resolute way where we just know. Now, our knowledge can increase, and our skill, our wisdom to apply what we know always increases. As long as we are living, these things are always growing. All three of these things are always growing, but they grow in that order. They grow in that order. And your understanding, when you understand something, you are just able to use it, like a couple of you said. You're just able to use it in more ways than people who just know it, or who can maybe apply it, but they don't understand it enough to know everything yet. They don't know it enough to where it's understanding, where that knowledge pops up in ways that you would think is completely unrelated. But when you understand it, you can see relation where other people can't, like putting together a big jigsaw puzzle. Some people do that well. Some people just can't see the correlation. They just can't put it together, where other people can. They're able to see it from a different level of consciousness. Whether they naturally possess that level of consciousness, or whether it's through repetition, they gain it. But for whatever reason, and however they got it, they have it at that moment in a way that the person who can't put that puzzle together does not. They understand, they just get it. That's what this is. And it is the byproduct, it's the outcome of knowledge and wisdom. And when you get to the point of understanding, you're able to do things that the people who don't have both of these, or both of these together, won't, can't, don't. This is a lifestyle. Learning how to think so that you can live well is a lifestyle. It is a constant acquisition and application of these three things, essentially. There's other things, there's patience, there's prudence, there's other things, but these are the kings and the queens. These are the royalty. This is it. That's it. Yes.
Real quick, well, I'm gonna be as quick as I can, but I still,
Yes.
I'm overwhelmed with a lot of different thoughts and processes right now.
Okay.
There's this young lady that I want to kind of strangle. Yeah, she literally crossed like several really touchy boundaries for me, and so I'm listening to you. And the kids are here with me. They're rolling their eyes, but they're gonna appreciate this one day. So I'm doing
Hey, tell my boy, I heard the sun coming up maybe like 2 days ago. Hey, tell him I'm listening, man. I'm always willing to learn. Tell him I'm listening. No
He
hater
has-
on this side. Got ears everywhere.
He said he has ears everywhere, my brother.
Okay, there you go. Okay, go ahead.
So there's this scenario, and the short version of it is this girl reminds me so much of me. And it's such a process where I am with the wisdom part of this, like step by step, as you've listed, knowledge and wisdom and equals understanding. To get to the level of understanding is not as glamorous as I may have wanted to believe it was. It's a very humbling, I'm very fragile with that word humble, because I'm very I have to be aware of how people use it. I don't mean to like bow down to everything and everyone like that. I just, it's making me self-reflect heavily on the grace and the mercy that I would have appreciated when I was in those moments. And so I've been in those moments recently. I've been in the same space she's been in. She messed up in my world. I've been in that space in someone else's world. And so the understanding that I have is so gracious, with also being clear that it's okay to let some people have another chance. It's just how you present the chance and because this is all reflecting on me. So the knowledge came from, and for me, the knowledge came from banging my head up against the wall so many times in my life, learning the hard way. And then the wisdom came with the experience of the consequences of learning the hard way. And then when you understand, when you first have to want to understand something, and I've always wanted to understand, like, what is it about me that makes me tick this way or makes me move this way, think this way, whatever. And then you start to see it in others, and you see where people can be naive, or where people can be nice, where people can be fun, and not even be aware that this is just not the best place to be. This is not the place for you. When you speak of greatness, greatness is not fun. Greatness is not, nice. Greatness understands. Greatness is silent sometimes, a lot of the time. And so I'm just processing as you're sharing this information. I just wanted to share. I felt compelled to say something. So thank you.
Wonderful. And that's why I was going to, and I always try to be mindful of stopping in certain sections so that we can reflect, so that we can talk about it while it's happening right now. So I'm glad that you did. Is anyone else? Because I was going to do that anyway. So you just cut the line. You got in front first. Does anybody have anything they'd like to either say to that or their own reflections before I move on about these three things, or anything we've said thus far, but or these three things: knowledge, wisdom, understanding, or anything that we've said so far this morning? Does anyone have any questions or anything they'd like to say before we?
My experience is that it's not an overnight thing. So like, even though you can hear something, learn it, the knowledge, you don't know it yet. And it takes time to really understand it. So, or you may know it, but you don't understand it really, right? So there's a difference between just the knowledge standalone and the understanding part, even just with the wisdom part, because the wisdom part is when you're actually applying it. And I've actually literally, I feel like I've experienced that, because for so long I thought just because I can repeat something that I know it, but I wasn't really applying it. And until I started applying it and you actually started to get the results from the application, that's when the kind of kicked in. Not when I first heard the knowledge, the information. So that's been my experience.
I was going to ask you that the question, Coach, and Better, you just made it so clear. You know, where does the embodiment of information happen in the process of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding?
Not all at once. It's in all three, in the sense of when you first, so to get knowledge, you need access. You have to have access to something, to the information. Then to get from here to here, you have to apply that information. You have to apply what you had access to. So these are all steps on the same sequence or spectrum. They're all the same. They're just not all at once. So access, you need access to information. Then you can start to embody it by applying it. You are embodying it when you apply it. You don't know what you're going to get, right? That's why you can't be a scientist without having a hypothesis and an experiment to prove it. That's the only way we figure out whether things work or not. We can't say we know something, but we either are unwilling to apply it or we try to prove it without application. That it doesn't work that way. So first is access to the information. Then you apply the information. And then you repeat. Repetition of the information that you say, oh, okay, this was my hypothesis. Here was my experiment. The outcome I found to be true. So now I know that this is truth. So now I'm going to repeat it. And that repetition is what then basically strengthens, expands your understanding. You're just knowing wisely, applying it just is. That comes from repetition. But first you need access. So what you're listening to, who you're listening to, when you talked about Rev Ike earlier, that's access. Then you said, I'm going to apply what I'm hearing. And then through that application, you got an outcome. And if it was an outcome you liked, you decided to repeat it. So then you said, every morning and every evening, I'm now listening to this. So the more you increase your access to something and you apply whatever you had access to, and then you get an outcome. And if it's one you don't like, you say, oh, okay, this hypothesis didn't work. I throw this out. I'll get a new one. But once you find the one you like, you repeat it over and over and over and over and over and over. But what's funny is to do this in order to gain these levels of consciousness requires consciousness, meaning purpose, to do it with purpose, to do it on purpose. Intention. That's a better word. And I say that because these things are happening anyway, but they're happening without intention, without purpose, and unconsciously. So people are listening to bad information, applying it and repeating it. Why do you think they have cancer year after year after year? Diabetes year after year after year. No money, no health, no relationships. They have poor outcomes year after year after year, because you can only keep something alive as long as you keep doing what you did to make it alive, so to speak. If you get a plant, you have to keep watering it to stay alive. You can't have a plant in June, water it once, and then come back in October and say, what happened? So the unconscious let the plant die. There's a lot of death around the unconscious of a plant, of your money, of your health, of your relationships. A lack of light, a lack of consciousness is what causes death, essentially. When you consciousness walk out of your body and say, I've had enough of this physical car, of this experience, people call that death. When you are unconscious in your body, when it's dark in here, that is death. You are suffering. That's where all suffering starts, is a detachment from consciousness, from proper thought, from proper thinking. But in order to think properly, if we were to say consciously, purposely, purposefully, with intent, with intention, now you're doing the same process as those who don't, but you're going to get a different outcome because you're going to make it safely to the venue because you're aware when you're driving. Someone who falls asleep is not going to make it. They have a car just like you. They're behind the wheel just like you, but if they're asleep, they're not going to make it. They're going to run into something or someone or both. So we're all behind the wheel of our car and we are the driver. And in order to drive well, the first thing we have to have, right, is some knowledge. We have to be conscious first, awake. Then we have to have some knowledge. You have to have access to information. So what do we call that? Driver's ed. So we're reading the book. Then what do we have? We start getting some lessons. We start applying it. And then we get enough repetition of that access, that information, the experience repeatedly enough to have understanding now. Now, with that understanding, what can we do that we couldn't do with just knowledge? When we first learned how to drive, everybody was sitting up straight. Wasn't a cool person on this screen when you the first day of driving. Wasn't a cool one around. I don't think any of us have ever sat up that straight in a chair since. No radio on, no phone in your hand, no texting. You wanted it as quiet as could. You were gripping the wheel so tight, if it was a person's neck, you'd be on trial or in jail. There was not a cool bone in any of us, right? Because we were only conscious first, and we were still learning. We were still learning the ledge, what we could or could not do, what was right, what was wrong, how fast, how slow, whatever. Then we started to get a little bit of wisdom because we started applying it. Okay, now let me tap the gas, or let me turn here, or let me parallel park. We started applying it. So then we started getting wisdom like, oh, you know what? Let me put my seatbelt on first before he or she says something. Or you start applying that access. It starts to come back now. The more you start to repeat something, you start to understand it. You're not just hearing it. You're not just trying it. It's starting to now sink in and become a part of you. And the whole reason that we have these calls, the whole reason that this is a lifestyle is because everyone is repeating this process, but the only difference is just imagine this line is bigger, but there's a line right down the middle. And there is the asleep and there is the awake. And you got to figure out which side you're on. It's that simple. If everyone is going through this process, most of us are going through it asleep. So we're not mindful of who we're listening to, what we're listening to, what we're watching, who we're watching. We're not paying attention to this access that we have. What information are we getting from this access? From our exposure. And therefore applying and ultimately repeating. Those on the asleep side is death. Disaster. Now, those are very dramatic, hyperbolic words. They are still true, but on an everyday basis, their stress, their worry, their fear, their anxiety, their doubt, guilt, all the other things that don't do anything positive or productive, don't help you do anything. Or there are the people who are awake. Those are the people who are experiencing life. Success, peace, joy. It doesn't mean we all have things that come up in this physical experience, but because of the access, the application, and repetition, we deal with things differently. We don't all have different things. Everybody has gone to the gas station at a time they didn't want to because they didn't go when they should have. Everybody's tried to wear some shoes because they look good and they didn't really fit. Everybody has stayed up too late, knew it when they were doing it, knew they were going to regret it in the morning, and did it anyway. We've all done very similar things. So it's not always that we're that different. A lot of things are just how we respond to the outcome of our circumstances, our conditions, our situations. That is, it's not just the fact that things don't happen. Those things change too as you rise in consciousness. You don't have the same mess happening constantly. You're not sick all the time. You're not broke all the time. As you rise in levels of consciousness, you know how to handle your money. You know how to handle your health. You know how to handle your relationships. So you're not always in constant states of despair, disgust, defeat, lack, things like that. But things happen, but they don't happen as often. And when things do happen, you are far more response able. Your ability to respond is greater, more significant than somebody else who is irresponsible. They are irresponsible. They are separated from the ability to respond appropriately. They're separated from that skill. It's not correct. So, Leslie, long answer to a very short question. And hopefully that answers it. Did it?
Completely, perfectly, wonderfully. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Anyone else before we move?
Yes, I wanted to say, well, first of all, thank you. And secondly, what I gathered from this is learning to trust myself, because initially when you asked what is understanding, I typed in the chat, oh, it's the combination of knowledge and wisdom. And I said, oh, wait, but what if that's wrong? And I deleted it. And I deleted it. So what I'm gathering is, well, what I've gotten is to learn to trust myself, and the application of knowledge, which brings me wisdom and gives me understanding, breeds confidence. Because when I'm applying what I know and I'm doing it on repeat, you can't tell me jack.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. My pleasure. And I don't know if you were here when we were discussing it, but Leslie was talking about Rev Ike. And one of the things we talked about was his attitude. And that's what I mean by attitude. When you have done that repeatedly over and over and over and over and over and over and over, it brings an attitude. It brings a level of confidence, a level of certainty and of security. And you don't mind if people misunderstand you until they understand. But you don't move off your mark because they don't know what they're talking about, but they may not know that. And when you are constantly doing what you're doing, it brings an attitude. You start living life on your feet and not on your knees. You start having candles because they smell good instead of sitting there with your hands clasped, hoping that they light up your life or something different. You start doing things different because you have a certain level of personal understanding with time and repetition and access and information and repeating it over and over and over. And most people don't do that. And so they can't have it.
Really come on with it, on your feet.
That's it. Okay. What's another way? People always use this word. I'm a big word person in the sense of, okay, I know what it means, but what does it really mean? What do you really mean when you say that? So we were just the conversation we were just having right now, just the dialogue we were having right now. Let's just say, so you can live on your feet, like we talked about, instead of on your knees. People say self-development. There's another saying that reminds me very much of this, but that I think is better than this. And like I said, I don't expect you guys to know these things, but I'm going to say it to you anyway, as vague as I can, so you can think about it. And you can, if there's another way to say self-development, what is another way to say that?
Would it be
Because everybody uses
self-improvement?
all these words and I don't think that because so many people use them and so many people use them so differently, I don't think it accurately is being, I don't think it's as potent as it could be. So what does somebody think for that?
I think Ray, have you-
Intentionally growing your strengths, like
Intentionally growing-
intentionally trying to grow, grow in areas that you want to strengthen.
Okay. Okay.
I would say like self-molding, like molding yourself into who you'd like to become.
Okay.
So in the chat, we have get your ish together,
Okay.
grow, personal development.
Okay.
I was going to say growth.
Okay.
Self-growth,
So, okay.
inner growth,
Okay.
conscious growth, awareness growth.
Okay.
Ooh, okay, I'm gonna stop.
Okay.
Even
So-
improvement. I like improvement too.
Improvement. Okay. Okay. But if you went to someone who, if you needed $5 and you went to someone, would you go to someone who didn't have it?
Absolutely not.
Would you go to someone who didn't have? Would you go to someone to ask for something they didn't have right now already?
No.
Okay. So then, if the self of you, which we would call our physical world, and we've been talking all morning, and they say self-development, then where are you going to get the self-development?
From someone who has what you want.
Yeah, but yourself has to develop. So where are you going to get it?
So we have some responses.
You're gonna dig deep in yourself.
Okay. But, okay. So you said
I think
you're
you
gonna
have to get it from someone outside of yourself. It's like,
Say it again.
I think you have to get it from something outside of yourself, because if you don't know it yet, so like going back to like knowledge and wisdom, right? If you don't know it yet, how can you do the developing if you don't know? So you have to definitely get it from somewhere outside of yourself, because you don't know what you don't know.
So earlier in the chat, Sparkle Bailey had put that Gavin says that self-development means practice and past growth.
Mhm.
Kimberly wrote to develop is to build up.
Mhm.
Natasha put that self-development is awakening the giant within, and she was saying you get it from you, the knowledge.
Okay, so this is what I mean when I say this word. And I think Ray was talking when you said knowledge. No, right? This is a very important word. And the reason we, like I said, I don't think self-development is the most potent word, because to me, it leads us the same place this leads, out. Even though we're trying to develop ourselves, we're going out. Watch this. Has anybody ever heard somebody say, it's a really old school saying, but when you meet someone and they say something to the effect of, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Has anybody ever heard that before?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That is self-development. We do not ever have the pleasure of making our own acquaintance. We don't realize that if...
I don't know what that means.
What?
What you just said.
We don't have the pleasure to make our own self-acquaintance. We don't really know ourselves that well. We don't realize that our self is already developed. We just don't realize it. We don't know it. We haven't met our own acquaintance. if we were to go back in and say, I want to be something, our desire, when somebody has a desire, when you have a desire that is clear, where did that come from?
Yourself.
So, and when you have a desire that's clear, it came from yourself. So yourself has no problem with clarity. Has no problem being clear. Because when you have a desire and you're clear, the self of you is clear. So it has no problem with clarity. But if I'm not acquainted with that part of myself, it's not clear to me because I don't know that part of me. I have not met my own acquaintance. I don't know me. I know you. I know you and you and you and you, but I don't know me. Self-development really is the pleasure of making your own acquaintance. It's going inside and realizing that if I get a desire from me, whether it's to have some ice cream or whether it's to be a millionaire, if my hair grows from the inside out, my teeth grow from the inside out, if my hair on my body goes from the inside out, if everything on this physical body comes from the inside out, how could that be the last place I look? How can it be the place I spend the least amount of time looking? It's the place I spend the least amount of time in. It's the place I'm least familiar with. That is self-development in the sense of the self of you is already developed. But what you're doing is, okay, we have a couple teachers on here. I don't know if Giovanni's on here for sure, but there's a couple teachers on here. I want you guys to think about something. I taught for a couple years, and God bless you, because I'm out of school. I'm out. But I did it. So I want all of us to think about something. Because we're all teachers, whether we've taught our kids, whether we've taught students, but I want everybody to think about something. When you are teaching a young person how to read, what are you actually doing? Like, think about what you're actually doing. Not the physical part of just, oh, I'm teaching them how to, no, think about what you're actually doing. When you're teaching a young person how to read or how to count, I don't want to give too many examples because I don't want to throw it off. But when you are teaching a young person how to read, let's just say we'll stick with reading. What are you actually doing?
Teaching them how to think.
Say it again.
You're teaching them how to think.
You're teaching them how to think. Okay.
Teaching them how to understand the world around them.
Okay.
Focus.
Okay. So watch this. Focus, thought, and understanding.
Just reflecting on the chat.
Okay.
Helping their own motor skills.
Reflecting. Okay. Somebody said, you said, what was the last one you said?
Focus. Me right now?
Yes.
Oh, helping their own motor skills?
Helping their own motor skills. What's the most important word in that sentence? Helping their own motor skills. What's the most important word in that
Helping.
sentence?
There.
Own.
Own.
Oh.
Own. You can read to them. You can read for them, like I'll read this for you. But if they don't have the ability already within them to do it, there's nothing you can do about that. Their focus, when you said focus, where is it? It's within them. Their thought, are you thinking for them? They're conscious on their own. Understanding, they already have these abilities. All you're doing is introducing something for them to apply it to. That's all you're doing. You're not teaching them. All you're doing is showing them, hey, this is something you can do. You're just introducing something to them. But everything it takes to do it, they have. And everything it takes to do it, they have, and they have to do it, because otherwise they'll never do what you're doing. The focus that's necessary, the thought that's necessary, the understanding that's necessary, they have to understand what you're saying, don't they? You can't understand it for them. You can't think for them. You definitely know you can't focus for them. Anybody been a teacher can tell you that. You definitely can't focus for them. So that means they have to have these abilities for themselves. They already have them. All you're doing is telling them where to apply them. But the point is, we believe that self-development is external, but it's because we haven't met our own acquaintance. We don't realize that all the gifts and everything that we'll ever need are already inside. And what's already inside, we are providing, just like piercing the ear. We're providing that because it correlates to something on the inside. We're using an external thing to invoke, to awaken these things that are already here. These things the kids already possess. Food, all food does is say your body uses it to grow itself. But whatever the growth is what it is. That growth is already inside. It's already loaded. When you put a new phone number, when you put a phone number in your new phone, all you did was put a number in there. But the ability to dial it, you didn't put in there. The ability to store it, you didn't put in there. The ability for it to work, you didn't put that in there. You just used something for it to do what it already came with the ability to do. All these things, you're not imparting these things. These things already exist. So what you do strategically is you introduce things for them to apply it to. Reading, writing, behavior, speaking. If you would work from the assumption that they already have these things, so you were strategically going to introduce the things you wanted them to apply these things to, you would get 50% more outcome and 75% less fighting. They don't want to do it. That's a thought. They already have their own idea. No, they don't want to do that. I'm not saying they don't need to do it. I'm saying I'm giving you an example of their ability to think. They may not think what you're thinking or the way you want them to think, but they are thinking. They do have thought. You're not introducing focus and thought or understanding. They came loaded with that. What you're doing is introducing things that you either want them to know or you feel they need to know or like them to know for them to apply these things. You're only introducing food, and the food is going to be used to grow them with. But the growth is already inherent. It's already loaded. 6'5" is 6'5", 6 feet is 6 feet, 5'8" is 5'8". The food didn't make them 5'8", so to speak. That's what was loaded in there. You can overeat and not grow faster than that if that's not what's loaded in there. So all you're doing is using external things to attach to the internal things. The internal things are what makes it all possible. All you're doing is giving them access. You're introducing them to them something that they can apply these skills and abilities that they came loaded with. But because we have not had the pleasure of making our own acquaintance, we don't know it's there and assume it's not. We assume we're actually in pursuit of it when we're actually not. What we're in pursuit of, or what we should be in pursuit of, are experiences like traveling. In the sense, what I mean by that is when you just take your child out to travel, look, they look around, they're already downloading. They're already, so what I'm saying is, I don't mean literal travel. Yes, travel too, but I'm saying math is no different than travel. Reading is no different than travel. All you're doing is presenting them with something that they can use these things they came with so that they can be expressed in these areas. Math, reading, writing, whatever else it is. So when you work from that premise, then you can say, okay, what is the best way or the best thing to introduce this thing, or the way I introduce this thing? What's the best way to do it? Is it through coercion? Is it through bribery? Is it through threat? Is it through, what is it? And what is it? Is it reading? Is it writing? Is it math? Is it catching? Is it running? Nobody can run for our kids. Nobody can ride a bike for our kids or for any young person. Why do you think as parents, when they first start riding, they're gripping the handlebars and we're gripping our skin, face, teeth, eyes, right? Hoping they don't fall because we can't ride it for them.
Floor, pushing the imaginary brake on the passenger
just-
side. Come on,
right?
come on, coach.
Right? Or when you've been driving the car and your parents taught you how to drive once or twice before they quit, right? And they're like, stop. Every time I get in the car with my mom, she's some kind of driving instructor all of a sudden. Her quarters all goes up according to her. You going too fast, turn around, where are you going? I wouldn't go that way, right? But that's what causes the interaction, because as much as they talk, they can't do it for us. They can only suggest, they can only offer, they can only introduce. And what I'm saying to us is, because we have not had the pleasure of making our own acquaintance, we're assuming that we don't have things that we do, but we don't know we have them because we don't know ourselves. We think we don't have focus. We do. We think we don't have thinking capacity. We do. We think we don't have the ability to understand. We do. We do. We just have to be more mindful about what we introduce to these skills so that they will attach themselves to that skill. The focus of math, the thinking of English, the understanding of science. We already have the skills. We came with them. So now you introduce something you want these things to be applied to. When you make your own acquaintance, you'll have an understanding of how much is in there. It's like having a closet and somebody says, what's in there? I don't know. I never go in there. That doesn't mean what's in there is not in there. It just means you don't know. That's why know thyself is paramount. Know thyself. And because we don't, we approach things incorrectly, with an incorrect premise and assumption. We think that we don't have this, that, the other. Yes, we do. We're just not acquainted with it. Because if we don't have it already, is anybody buying Focus on Amazon? Anybody got, is there a Costco size of understanding?
Kim has a Focus key.
That's it, right? But guess what? Just like any other drug, and that's not as a drug, but like any other external thing, the only reason it works from the external to the internal is because there's an internal equivalent. That's it. Adrenaline that causes you to focus is the same thing as Adderall. One's naturally made, one's artificially made. That's the only reason drugs of any kind work internally, because our body already makes that chemical naturally in its own process. It just makes it in smaller doses, and it makes it only when it's tapped. But it already has the ability. Otherwise, it's like trying to tow two cars, and they can't hook up to each other. You can be right next to each other, but if no one has a tow hitch, or if there's nothing to attach one to the other, it doesn't work. The only reason drugs work, drugs, alcohol, the only reason any of those things work is because no matter which one you're taking, which one you're using, there is a natural chemical process in your body that does the same thing. It's the only reason it works. That's it. Anybody ever try to put a car engine on a motorcycle? Anybody ever try to put their tennis shoes in a blender? It doesn't work. So the only reason drugs and alcohol and things like that work is because we make the same chemical process of those drugs and alcohol. We make those same things naturally in our body. So our body knows how to use them because it makes it itself. With the understanding that you already have these things, as you continue to know thyself, that's why spending time with yourself is important. Nobody's a man into an island. We didn't come here to be sitting on a mountain by ourselves and never talk to anyone. Otherwise, what did you come for? You came to be by yourself, could have stayed where you are. Right? You ever had a friend come over and they don't want to talk? They just want to sit there, and you're like, you could do that at the house. Same thing. What'd you come over here for to not just participate? You just want to sit here. Right? As we spend some time with ourselves and make our own acquaintance, we'll realize that we already have the gifts that we need. We're just not familiar with ourselves enough to know they're there. And if we start consciously creating learning opportunities, meaning creating opportunities, access, interactions with things that we can apply these things to, you will see them come out. Just like baby teeth. Just because you don't see them, don't mean they're not in there. They come out. They're already there. We're already preloaded. I know Amazon gives a whole, they do a lot, but they're not selling wisdom yet. Now, who knows? But there, I mean, and let me know if there are, because especially I'll pay for the 1 day drop off too. I want mine today. I don't even want to wait till tomorrow. We were talking earlier about patience. Well, everything I say goes out the window. I want mine right now, today. I will meet the cat at the Amazon facility. But just let me know when it's there. These things are already self-governed. They're already self-guided. They're already self-provided. They're already included. We came with that. But because we don't know ourselves, we think that we're looking for it, or we think we have to do things to develop. It's already developed. We just don't know it. The bike is already developed. Our ability to ride a bike is already developed, but we don't know it until we get access to it. And then we work it out. The bike is already the bike. Thought is already thought. But if you don't ride thoughts, you can't get good at riding it. If you don't ride understanding, you can't. And you didn't create understanding. The bike was there. You just got on it. Thought is here. Understanding is here. Focus is here. You just got to get on it. You have to make your own acquaintance. That is a big difference. We think we're not developed. We are developed. We have everything necessary. But the more we make our acquaintance, that what we call development, that relationship, the bike doesn't develop. It already is. You can get on it 100 times, but the 100th time, it feels like you've developed. It feels like the bike is developed. It doesn't shake anymore. It never shook. You shook. It didn't shake. You shook. But when you get on it 100 times, you think, oh yeah, this is nice. This is comfortable. You can't even remember when it shook. You can't remember shaking. Because you got to make the acquaintance of the bike. The more you expose you to it, you became one. The more you expose yourself to learning opportunities, growth opportunities, you're going to start. It's like riding that bike. You are what you are already. It is what it is. You're just not acquainted with it. So it feels weird. It feels like you don't know how to ride a bike. But you just never met this acquaintance. But if you couldn't do it, period, if you didn't have what it took already, you would never have what it took, because creation is finished. There's nothing else coming. You're already loaded. And when people use this term, it makes people think that they don't have something, that they need to go look for something. They need to find something. They need to try to get better at something. No, you need to realize who you are, become acquainted with what you have as a result of who you are, and you realize you're already good enough. You just don't know it. You're already a winner. You just don't know it. You're already healthy. You just don't know it. So the point then is become conscious and aware of, hey, let me look in here and see what's here. It's not a lack of as far as possession. It's a lack of as far as awareness. It's a lack of awareness that you already possess. You already are. If you weren't, you could never be. You could never be. You already are. This is what I mean by understanding. To get to this point, this is what I mean by the word understanding. You already are. You just don't know it. You already have the ability. You already are healthy. You already are wealthy. You already are whatever it is you want to be. You just haven't made your acquaintance. You have not acquainted yourself physically. You have not gone back inward to who you really are, your non-physical self, and made your acquaintance. You don't know each other, not consciously. You don't consciously know your higher self. You don't consciously know it. And when you become more conscious of your higher self, of who you really are, you will actually start looking in the closet. You will actually start going for the bank and asking for your money. Yeah, I'm using manners, I'm asking, but I'm not really asking. Telling you, this is mine. This is me. This is who I am. It's not hope. It's not a wish. It's not something else coming from somewhere else. This is who I am. I am the thing. I am the thing I'm looking for. And the thing I'm looking for has all the things I'm looking for. Guys, catch that? I mean, that was. That's it. That's it.
The marker got dropped.
That's it. Hey, listen, I don't care about you guys. I blew my mind. So if it wasn't enough for you, it was enough for me. Okay? It was enough for me. That is what I mean by understanding. Know thyself. Go within and realize it's already all there. As you get the pleasure of making your own acquaintance, you'll realize that you already have the ability to ride the bike. You just haven't had the exposure to the bike. You already have health. You just haven't exposed yourself to health because we're thinking that we have to wait to get health. We're thinking somebody else has to give us a vitamin to get health. The doctor has to tell us we're healthy. Or we have to do this to be healthy, do that to be healthy. We are the this and the that. We are that. That's who we are. We are health. Like we talked about a month ago, the parent statement. We are health. The reason we are healthy is because we are health. Health is a state. Healthy is the expression of that state.
Jojo wants to know what you said before you dropped your marker or dropped the mic because her mom came in loud on the speakerphone.
Well, you know what? I'm sorry you missed it because I was so inspired. I can't even remember what I said when I said it. That's how inspired I was. This is like a Lil Wayne mixtape. I'm hitting as I'm going.
Here, I'm gonna put the site where you can catch the replay.
That's it. I mean, catch it, rewind it to whatever, rewind it. Just it's
Not
8:29, so I
Lil
said it probably about
Wayne, Coach. Not
8:27.
Lil Wayne.
Yeah. That was it really before he went blonde. I'm not really into the blonde thing with the hair look kind of crazy to me, but you know, do what you do. I'm just saying, I'm out here like, you know, a Millie back in the day, and I'm out there like that. I was just so inspired. I can't even remember what I said. It just came out. You see? That's it. But that's what I mean by understanding. If you start just within yourself and say, you know what? Let me assume that I already have this thing. Let me assume that I already am this thing. Now, if I were, what would I be thinking? What kind of thoughts would I have? If I were this thing or I had this thing, what would be different than what it is today? What would my thoughts be? Where would I be going? Who would I be talking to? What would I be watching? What would be different? A different world is just an outcome of a different thought. The people who are living different than you that you like are just thinking different than you. They're not better or worse physically, they just think different than you. And if you think they're better, it's because they're thinking better than you. But it's not in capacity or ability, it's just in performance and application. It's in conscious intention. A driver is not better than you just because they're driving, they're better than you because they're awake and you're asleep. Man, they sure drive well. You mean with their eyes open? How well do you think you're going to drive with your eyes closed? How well do we think we're going to live with our eyes closed? Now, you may not have meant it. You may have worked a double, triple 1,000 shift. You may have been up for 3 days straight for moving or doing something. You may, for whatever reason, but you're tired, you're sleepy. So you're going to close your eyes, but you close your eyes at the wrong point, and it's a wrap. And most of us are trying to live well with our eyes closed. It doesn't mean it's intentional. Most of the time, it's unintentional. That's the point. It is subconscious. It's below the level of sight. So we don't know or we're unaware that it exists. That does not mean it doesn't. It just means it doesn't to us, but it still does. But as a result, we cannot take into account why we're getting, or we don't understand why we're getting the results we're getting, or not getting the results we desire. This is what I mean by understanding. Becoming acquainted with yourself, making your own acquaintance. So this week, homework. Write it down, write it on your kid's hand, write it on the wall, put it wherever you need to put it. I want you to make your own acquaintance. So it's two things. Make your own acquaintance. Introduce yourself to yourself. Actually, speak to yourself with good manners like you would with any other person who wasn't you, that you liked or respected. Go in the mirror and extend your hand and say, nice to meet you. As crazy as it sounds, we need to do that. We're living a whole life and don't even know what we look like in the mirror, unless it's to complain about how old we're getting, how fat we're getting, where my hair, I used to be. That's all we're doing in the mirror. That's it. So number one, make your own acquaintance. Make your own acquaintance. Pleasure to meet you. How are you? It's nice to meet you. Make your own acquaintance. Get to know yourself. Number two, take one thing and start with the premise. I already have it in me. I can already do that. I can already know that. That's not a statement of ego. That's not a statement of being unwilling to learn or listen. That is piercing your ear. That is a physical thing you're going to use to tap what's inside of you. And what's inside of you has to express itself. And as it expresses itself, it's going to express itself in the best way for you because it's you and yours. It may be a book you come across. It may be a television show you watch. It may be your friend inviting you to a conference. It may be your friend telling you about something they heard or watched. It may be anything. But I want you to start with the premise of, I already have that in me. And so now this thing I have in me, I want to expose it. I want to get it from the inside out. And by assuming it's already here, that becomes your consciousness. Your assumptions are your consciousness. They are what you're actively believing to be true. Whether they are true or not has no bearing on it. Assumptions do not require proof. That's why they're called an assumption. But we live by them in humanity. We assume that when we're walking by someone, they're not going to punch us. We're assuming that when we're driving on the freeway, no one's going to hit us. We're assuming all the time. We're just very good at certain things and not very good at the others. So we're very good at assuming unconsciously, and we are neophytes in a conscious assumption. Purposeful, intentional, intent-driven consciousness. So I want you to assume that you have something. The ability already within you, whether it's health, whether it's money, whatever else it is. Assume you have it. Start thinking like you have it. Start thinking as the person who has it. And watch what comes into your world as that consciousness starts to fill up in your mind like smoke in a room. Let it fill up your mind with its presence. And you're going to start to see it expressed in your world, because just like we talked about last week, where your attention goes, that's where your energy goes. And where your energy goes, that's where your life goes, because your life is energy, essentially. And energy is your life. So you have to guide it and direct it with your intention and your attention. And if you want to win, consciously, purposely, purposefully, just like driving a car, it's got to be conscious, purposely, purposefully, with intention, with your attention. You are driving your life with your mind, just like you're driving your car with your body. You don't just drive your car and say, I wonder how I got here. Same thing. Same thing. All right, before I move on, does anybody have anything they want to say about this little section? Any questions, any statements, anything anyone wants to say?
Coach, can I check my notes real quick just to make sure I'm good to go with my homework?
Yes.
Okay, so 1, I was supposed to make my own acquaintance, get to know myself. 2, take one thing, start with the premise. I already have that in me, because what's inside of me must express itself. It is me and it is mine. And was there 3? Was the 3
No.
assume I already have? Whatever it is,
That's
it's my consciousness? Or is that a
yes,
part of 2?
that's the extension of number 2.
Of 2. Okay, yes, I just wanted to make sure I didn't have it all that.
That is
All right,
absolutely-
I'm good. Thank you, Coach.
That's it.
Coach Weezy.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Cash money up here. That's it. That's it.
Oh, earlier Natasha said he doesn't write his lyrics.
I said, I just come in the booth. All week I'm practicing, then I just get in the booth. That's it. All week I'm practicing. Then I just get in the booth. That's it. I'm just fire up here. All right. Anybody before I move on?
Yeah, I'll tap in real quick. Just
Sure.
about meeting your acquaintance. That part, I think that was probably the part that stuck with me the most out of this whole session.
Yes.
I can't recall who the quote is by, but getting to know yourself is the hardest work you'll ever do.
Mhm.
And I've recently heard that, and I was just like, wow, because that's pretty much what experiencing life is. It's like figuring out who you are through different situations you're presented with. And, integrity has been a big theme of the year for me. It's being able to live through integrity, live with integrity. If I say something, I'm gonna do it regardless, even if it's like arriving somewhere at a certain time or, something like that. Like, just if I say I'm gonna be there, to do it no matter what. So that part is the part that stuck with me the most today.
And that's wonderful, because the reason why most people don't have integrity is because most people don't know and or like themselves. They have no problem breaking their word, because their word doesn't mean anything to them. And how can anyone mean anything to you that you don't know? That doesn't make you a bad or mean person, but you're not buying everybody's stuff at Target at checkout. You're not saying, hey, everybody come, Target on me. We're not. That doesn't make you mean or mad or bad. But the point is that most people Word don't mean anything to them because they don't mean anything to them. And it's hard for anyone to mean anything to you that you don't know, including you, including the self of you. And so it's easy to have integrity when you realize you are talking to you about you. When you realize that if you lie to you, you have no right to be mad at anybody else doing it. Because if it was good enough for you to do it, it's okay for somebody else to do it. But the reason we flip that on its head is because we have been conditioned to believe that what someone else thinks or feels about us is more important than our own self-concept, self-esteem, self-idea. Ours is so low or non-existent, we don't care how we talk to ourselves. What word we break to ourselves? Who are we to our own self? Little to nothing. So you're absolutely correct. And the other thing you said was absolutely correct. Life is essentially getting to know ourselves. It's physically getting to know our non-physical self. It's literally being able to live here in a physical body, realizing we're not the body. We are the being within it. And as we know thyself, we start to act like who we really are instead of who we think we are, which is a combination of amnesia and identity theft. We're just walking around like Marco Polo, saying Marco, and there ain't no Polo coming back. We just walking around. So you're absolutely correct, Ray. You're absolutely correct. And once we understand that, then our word, then there's no problem keeping our integrity. I'm not going to lie to you because I'm not going to lie to me. Forget you. I'm not going to lie to me. Forget you. Because, okay, we're not friends no more. But if I lie to me, we're not friends no more. How's that going to work? How's that going to work out? I'm going to close the door on myself. You can't come in. Don't call me. Don't text me. How's that going to work? When we start to realize, I tell everybody this, and sometimes it's hard for people to understand, to get, to swallow. You are the most important person in your life. It is you. Until you know that and understand that, you are going to struggle. You're going to struggle. It's just what it is. You're going to struggle. You are the most important person in your life. And if you learn to know you, and therefore, if you did, you would automatically love you. And if you automatically loved you, you wouldn't do anything that would express differently than that. You wouldn't, I love me so much, I'm gonna slap myself. I love me so much, I'm gonna cross the street without looking. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do it. You would realize how important you are. And because you're so important, you would treat other people a certain way. You wouldn't look like a fool, act like a fool, talk like a fool, because that's not who you knew or know yourself to be. But since we don't know ourselves, then what's out of bounds? What's not okay? If you don't know where you're going, which way is not okay?
And that brings me back to like what you were talking about, knowledge, the limit of, like, what's the edge? How far does it go? And I think that's what life kind of brings us, is like how far are you willing to go to get what it says you want to have in life? How far are you willing to go? What are you willing to overcome? What's the ledge? What's the limit for you?
And a great example of that in today's society is what people call limiting beliefs. Your belief has a ledge. Just because you picked one and didn't know it had a ledge, that's a you problem. Every belief has a ledge. Now, it may be so far away you can't see it, so it's perfect. You have plenty of room to grow. But at some point, as you keep expanding, guess what? You're going to come to that ledge. So you need to get a new one. That's life. We are forever. We got to keep expanding. We got to keep pushing the boundaries. That's the only way it's going to work. It's the only way it works. And so a lot of us, because we don't know ourselves, it's like not knowing your shoe size and you go in there and try to put yourself in a size 2. You wouldn't do that if you knew better. Well, a shoe size and a belief are no different. They have ends. They got the front of the shoe that you cannot burst through unless you're just going to cut it open or tear your feet up. But in any wisdom or knowledge and ultimately understanding, you'd never put your foot in it. In the first place, you'd look at the box and be like, nah, I'm good. Well, how many people look at the belief and be like, nah, that's probably not going to work? You don't even have to experience it. Say the belief out loud. I believe money is hard to make. Okay. Say that self, just say it real good, nice and good. Look in the mirror, say that to yourself real good. And you can see your limit already. You already know how far this is going to work. So then when your boss calls and says, oh, I got to lay you off and there's not enough hours, or I need you to work 20 extra hours this week. Yeah, you made some money, but it was hard, wasn't it? Or when they cut your hours, yeah, money is hard to make. It can express itself in many ways. People don't realize that the thoughts they have, they don't realize how literal they are, how real they are. And if you did, you wouldn't just, when you pick up that box and it says size 2, and you look in the shoe and it says size 2, and you hold the shoe and it looks like a size 2, does anybody think that's a limiting belief? Would anybody try to talk the shoe into being a size 6? You just put the shoe down like, this is never going to work out. There's nothing to be excited about here. I'm just going to move on and go get a different box with a bigger, so I can put my feet in here. So I can put my life in here. I need to expand this belief. Same thing. Homework number 3. Thanks to Ray, it's her fault. You guys got you some extra homework? I think she's the teacher's pet. I love her.
Blame it on me.
That's it. Hey, listen, around here, everyone knows I don't accept blame or responsibility, only credit.
Yeah.
I only accept credit around here. No blame, no responsibility. That's for everybody else. That's for the suckers. You see, I only accept credit. If it's my fault, it's somehow your fault. But as a result of knowing that, do you know how much time I save by immediately blaming others? It's just like that. I turn it on like that. I stub my toe. Who put this chair here? Like that. I mean, anything. It could be anything. I immediately blame other people. I save time, so much time. You guys are wasting your time thinking about whose fault it is. I know it's not mine, so I've already saved minutes already. It's someone else's. Now it's just who's closest, who's around. That's it. You'd be a cat. Why'd you put the chair here? It could, if it's living, it's eligible. Period. Everybody can get it. Third one is stand in the mirror, get your back straight. If it's not normally straight, straighten it up. Drink you some coffee, whatever you do, straighten it up in the mirror and stand there. And I want you to think about one belief that you have that's really good. I'm always healthy. I always have good friendships. My kids love me. My relationship is good. Whatever, one. Then I want you to think of one that you know you have, but you don't really want to say out loud. Yeah, that one. Like, I'm getting older and it's hard to lose weight when you get older. I want you to think of one that you know you have. And guess what? You guys can do this by yourself. You don't even have to tell anybody. I want you to think of one you know you have. I want you to say it to yourself out loud in the mirror so you can really hear. When people talk about ratchet, when people talk about, I want you to really think of that ratchet thought you have in your mind. That is absolutely absurd and ridiculous that you are allowing to misbehave in your world and as a part of your life. So I want you to say the good one and think about it. I want you to say the not good one and think about it. So that you get a real understanding of the yin and the yang going on within you. That is you, that is creating your life. And after you've given that thought a couple, really think about what you're saying when you say that thought. It's hard to lose weight, or money's hard to make, or whatever the case may be. I want you to think about that, because we all think about the good ones. And we got affirmations and we go to sleep with them and everything like that. But we're not really willing to admit the ones that we're entertaining, that are the exact opposite, that we're affirming constantly, because it's not affirmations are not just verbal. They're just the awareness of, they're the knowledge of, I just know this is what I think. And if I'm pressed on it, or if I speak without thought, it's coming out. I want you to tell yourself that one. Look in the mirror and tell yourself that one. And really realize just for a second, before you change it, just sit with it for a second and really realize what you're saying to yourself. I'm never going to get out of this job. My business is never going to get off the ground. whatever it is. I want you to really think about what you're saying and realize who is saying that. Who is judging you? Most of us don't need anybody to judge us. We doing it. We doing it. And then after you sit with that not so good thought, now say, okay, just an option. Probably not the best one I picked. I'm going to let this one go. What am I going to replace it with? It's important to let things go. It's better to replace them with something. Because the reason people have a hard time letting things go is because they don't have something to replace it with. And most people in humanity would rather have something than nothing. Bad job, bad relationship, counterfeit money, either better than nothing. It may work once or twice. People would rather have something that's not good rather than nothing at all. That's a human condition. It's a human trait. And the reason we have a hard time getting rid of things is because we have nothing better to replace it with. So that thought that you know is not really the best, what can you replace it with now? But don't run from it. Sit with it for a minute. You're not confessing it anymore. You're not saying this is going to happen to me and no, but sit with it. I want you to really realize, like, own it for a second and sit there and say, am I really been saying this to myself for real? And sit back and really say, man, I've really been chopping this one up. I've really been meditating on this one. I've really been entertaining it. Like, I've really been walking around with this for real. For real. I have really been doing this to myself, and I got mad at so-and-so for saying this or that. Oh, you know, it's hard to lose weight when you get older. Honey, how do I look in this dress? Oh, well, honey, you know it's hard for you to lose weight when you get older. He would have been shot, stabbed, killed, robbed. He'd have been beat up. He'd have been messed up if he said the same thing to you that you've been saying to you. It's not okay to say it to ourselves. It's worse to say it to ourselves. You can always shut somebody else up or shut them out. You got to go to sleep with you. You have to shower with you. You have to go to work with you. You have to walk with you. You have to drive with you. Everywhere you go, there you are.
Yeah.
See that? Catch it. Catch it. Catch it. That's fire right there. That's fired up. It just came up. So, and then change it. Replace it with something. Realizing who you are. Replace it with something. Declare and decree a new vision for you, a new version for you. Be you transformed by the renewing of your mind. Change your mind. Choose something different. Choose something better. You are the power to change and choose. Change and choose. All right. That's enough for me today. It's enough of me. Anybody
Thank
have
you,
anything
Coach.
they'd like to say? We got some good couple minutes. Any questions? Anything anybody wants to work with?
Coach, that was amazing today. And I appreciate the homework. I'm going to do it. I'm a firm believer in self-talk. How do you talk to yourself? Love and appreciate you. Like, you can be someone's best friend. You can encourage and uplift them. But do you take that same energy and turn it inward to yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Once you become your own best friend, then everything you said today makes sense, and they'll become in line with where and who they're supposed to be. So awesome. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Oh, thank you for coming. It's always my honor and pleasure. Thank you for coming.
Hey, Coach Lucky, what's up? It's Gerardo, man. I'm glad to be back. I've been a little busy. I was unable to get on the lives, but I was catching the replays, man. That was fire, man. You hear people talk about something is better than nothing. But man, sometimes nothing will make you appreciate something and create that boundary that you need to know what's good for you in your life, man. That was a blessing, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yes, sir. Good to see you. Good to talk to you.
Go ahead, Elisa.
Thank you. Hey, Coach Lucky.
Hi.
Hey, Vero. How are you? The question that I have is, once you get to a certain level in business, some of your old friends that you've been with for 20 years or more, they start to shed off. How do you mentally, or what mental training can you do other than people saying, well, that's part of life. When you get to a certain part of business, everybody can't go with you, but they still deep friends of yours. Like, what do you do to fill that void, I guess?
As any part of your life grows physically, your mind has to grow with it and before it. And a lot of times we only focus on our business growing and we don't realize that that growth is only a direct reflection of first our own mental growth. So sometimes we do outgrow. A lot of times we're always growing. And in our constant growth, we're always outgrowing things, whether it's a shoe size, a friendship, a neighborhood, a job, an income bracket, whatever else it may be. So what you do is you keep your mind, you keep your concept of friendships as progressive and as innovative and as successful as your business. So just like, who was that? I don't see her name right next to Ray. Veronica was just speaking. What you say to yourself matters. What are you saying to yourself about your friendships? What type of friendships do you want to have? Friendships aren't just necessarily a person, it's just a relationship. So what you want to have is not necessarily just a person, you want to have certain types of relationships. And sometimes the type of relationships we want to have are no longer able to be given by that particular person. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But as long as you have a consistent pedagogy, consistent philosophy or theory or ideology, a belief about what your friendships are in life, then they will always be physically expressed, whether they're in new people, old people, or current people. You will always have people that are growing with you. And sometimes people with you can grow, sometimes they can't. But it's not just about a particular person. It's the only particular person's about is you. So what is your idea of friendships? What is your idea of growth in friendships? What is your idea? That's always what's being reflected in your world. People are always reflecting you. They're just a mirror. They're always reflecting your concept of yourself. So sometimes we are more accepting of growth physically than we are personally or internally. So what is your concept of friendships? What is your belief that as you succeed, how does everything go with you? If you can get an idea of success in that area by saying something like, I always have friends. I always have the greatest friends. I always have friends that are like-minded and that are going and growing with me. And that is your concept of friendship, then that is what will be reflected in your world if that's your concept. And you don't hinge that upon physical people, because you could have great friends. What happens if they move? Great friends. What happens if something happens and they pass on? You're still going to want friends. You're still going to want the same thing at the end. So if you make it about you and about your concept, your desired concept of friendships, and you hold that as your standard, as this is what it is for me, that will always be reflected in your world. And that's the only thing that you have to change and or maintain.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Natasha put in the chat, Pastor Weezy Luck with another message. Pass the collection plate.
Cash money, baby. Cash money up in here. Bling, bling. You guys know it. You know it.
Every time I
Yeah.
come on Saturday, Coach Lucky
That's
do
it.
that bling bling.
That's it. That's it. I'm telling you, that's it. That's it. That's
Get his
it.
intro music ready, Vero. Get his intro music ready.
That's it. That's right. Tell the people to get to work. Tell them to get to work. No free rides around here. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. Anything anyone else wants to say? All right. Well, hey, thank you all for coming. As always, I appreciate you all. I'm grateful to you all for, like I said, allowing me to run my mouth for 2 hours. As you can tell, and even if you can't, this is my absolute favorite thing to talk about, to teach, to reason, to come together with. I talk to myself about it. I talk to whomever will listen about it. My mom will tell you I'm blowing up her phone constantly talking about something or this or that or whatever it may be, or my friends or whomever. This is my favorite thing to talk about, and I'm grateful and honored that we're all able to come together and talk about it and learn to think well in order to live well, as we should. And our life is going according to our thinking. So we are raising our game up, and we are making our own acquaintance this week and realizing we are that person we're looking for. We have that thing we're trying to get. All we have to do is make our own acquaintance. So thank you all again for another great weekend, another great day, another great Saturday. Have a wonderful week. Apply it. Apply it. Apply. Find something today that resonated with you and apply it. Apply it. Apply it. Apply it. That's what we're here. We're applying and proving. What is that good and acceptable will? Prove it. Prove it. And then you'll approve it. That just came right there. Catch it.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you, coach.
Appreciate
Have
you.
a great
Good work,
week.
everybody. Yeah, that's it.